Oh, baby, it is the Devil's Puck Luck podcast. We're coming up here live on YouTube. We're breaking down the Timo Meier debut, what went well, what's going to need some work, and how the Devils can prepare for tonight's matchup with those Toronto Maple Leafs looking to get another winning streak on the roll. That is right, my friends. The Devil's Puck Luck podcast live on YouTube and wherever you get those podcast needs fulfilled. Over there, of course, is Danny McDonough at Danny the Face on Twitter. We'll get into that at some point along the podcast. 20-year season ticket holder. Obviously, you know that he is dialed in on not just the Devils, but hockey at large. It's what makes these conversations great. I'm Adam Armbrecht, not just covering the Devils, but also the Nets over on the Locked On Nets podcast, the Giants on the One Giant podcast, and coming soon to an internet station near you, the Raging Red Bulls podcast, where I'll be breaking down the New York Red Bulls season ticket holder right here in front of you. Went to the season opener the other day. A very disappointing draw, if I'm being frank, against Nashville. But that's not what this podcast is about, man. How are we on a Tuesday?
I'm doing great. I'm feeling great. Are you feeling great? You're a busy guy, by the way, too. You're doing a lot of podcasts, just getting it done. Now a season ticket holder of the Red Bulls, so.
No, I love it, man. And Dan's going to be going to some of those games too. Yeah, I mean, listen, this is what it's about, keeping yourself active. This is a hard time of year with the NBA season still in full swing, going down their stretch. Like NHL, NBA, they overlap very much, especially at the back end. So it gets a little hectic in that regard. But we don't need to worry about any of that stuff, because the thing that we didn't come in right after the episode, we thought about it, knew this Maple Leafs matchup was going to be coming up too. Timo Meier officially makes his debut, and luckily took all the way to overtime, but they put the cherry on top of that debut by getting that win against the Yotes. Listen, you know, every game, especially in hockey, you can lose a game. That can happen. And also, it was the Coyotes, and it felt like that was the prime debut time, and that was a frustrating game that we can talk about in totality. But
I mean, it's good that Timo got his start, I think, in Arizona, you know, to kind of put a little bit less pressure on him tonight against the Leafs. But listen, the Yotes were a good team at home. They are a good team at home. And, you know, they beat Boston at home. They beat Colorado at home. And that had the quintessential trap game, you know, written all over it. And, you know, we got lucky with a lot of things that were going on. You know, defensively, we had some breakdowns. Neutral zone, we had some breakdowns. The firepower on this team, the offense, we know is going to be what it is. It is phenomenal. We are very, very, we're one of the best in the league, you know, with our 9 now, I should say, because our top 3 lines are rolling. You know, we'll get into it a little bit more, but our third line had its best game to me of the year. You know, they were absolutely phenomenal. Boquist finally getting some goals that are well-deserved. He's been grinding it out game after game.
So let's stay at the top here with Timo Meier. Obviously, he makes his debut, third shift, finally gets third shift on the ice, finally gets his goal, you know, which you say finally, but I think that's what every single fan was like, come on, like, show me the taste.
Course.
But we said before we started, he got the goal, but it wasn't like, in my mind, I pictured you got Hughes out there, you got Brad out there. It's a little 1-2, a rat-a-tat. He's there at the point, you know what I mean? The open pockets because the defense is scrambling. And, oh, what a rip. Instead, it was like bouncing puck off to the right. He's there. It's a well-timed play. Dumps it back of the net, and he gets the goal. It's a very typical goal in the NHL that you love to see, but it didn't necessarily come with all the elation you want.
Right. You want to see Jack and Timo on a 2-on-1 and just rip a shot or something. You know what I mean? So, but listen, at the end of the day, he's in the right spot. You know, he's in the right area. It was kind of crazy, actually, too. The rebound that he was just there. You know, it was perfect timing for him. So, I mean, listen, you take any goal, you know. And funny story, Adam. I actually bet, I forgot to tell you this, anytime goal scorer, Timo Meier.
So far, you know what's funny? And we won't plug any betting websites until they become sponsors of the show. But that wasn't available yet.
Really?
Like, as I got towards game time, because I don't know whether or not one of two things. Some betting sites will not put out what may be a very obvious bet, what feels like an easy one.
Well, I still got it at plus 110, so I was still plus the money. Listen, it was only a $25 bet.
Listen, let's be realistic here.
Yeah, I know.
Plus 110.
Yeah, Adam doesn't take.
I don't even wake up in the morning for plus 110.
Adam wants like 3 points for Timo Meier kind of night, plus 500 or something like that.
I did something for like plus 350. I was going to. I think I held off on it. I'm now 0 for 2 since we've launched the podcast on the parlays. But they've been fun ones, though.
You and your parlays, you get a little aggressive, but that's why they're the big money, So
that's right.
Listen, for all those gamblers out there, don't listen to Adam. Well, I mean, if you want the long side, maybe listen to Adam.
I'm only $5. You reach in your pocket, you find an Abraham Lincoln, all of a sudden we're having fun one night. $25 bets. What am I?
Well, I mean, that's true. You're not like betting $100 or $200 on these parlays.
Who's
If not, we would have a talk off air.
What am I, Scrooge McDuck? Trying to think of a reference, I don't got the big old room filled with coins that I can just reach into.
Bringing it back.
Hit of money.
I don't know if a lot of our viewers, because they're probably younger fans, aren't going to get that reference, but
what's your problem?
DuckTales.
Huey, Dewey, and Louie. Anyway, so that was the positive. He gets that goal. But the other side of this conversation, and I think what factors into a lot of what this game was, is Timo is then also on the ice for Arizona scoring goals. And that there's a reality. Let's stay on the offensive side here first. What did you like that you saw from that line, especially between, let's just say, Timo and with Jack there?
Yeah.
How dynamic can this be? We know it's only going to look better as it grows.
Listen, digging for the dirty pucks, the dirty areas, to really grind it out on the boards. You saw that with Timo already. He's a physical body. He's going to get against the boards. He's going to basically be able to play against anybody, any line of the opposing team. Neutral zone, they played well. Jack did have a couple turnovers. Timo had a few turnovers. It's bound to happen, obviously, getting used to one another on this line. You knew there was going to be some of that first game jitters.
Yeah.
Offensively, I am not concerned at all. They are going to be unbelievable. This line is just going to roll, offensively. They're going to get their points. They're going to get their goals, their assists, Jack, Timo. And what you were saying, too, is Brat is really going to benefit from this line.
I think that, again, when it comes to the most important moments, you're going to look to Timo, you're going to look to Hughes, you're going to look to Mercer up on, and lost his ended 8 games. I think that's actually why I lost the bet, because I was like, let's go one more time. Yeah, we'll go for 9 games now. So you're going to look for other guys. But on a line like this, Jesper Bratt's going to need to be clinical when it comes to his opportunities, because I think there's going to be real chances when you think about the quickness at which Hughes can play with, the space that he can go occupy, and then knowing that the defense is going to be keeping an eye on Timo at all times. It's going to be, and it doesn't have to be by design. It can be on rebounds, right?
Sure.
It can be on hard pucks bouncing back out of the zone and Bratt being there to put them away. Do you see, if we did by percentages, do you think that Bratt, average points per game is going to go up by 20% over the remainder of the season?
Yeah, I mean, I could see it. I think he's going to get a lot more assists because, remember, Timo and Jack are going to be the shoot first mentality. Yep. That's just how they are. I think a lot of the line now is going to be about, do I make that extra pass if you're Timo or Jack? Do I make the third pass? And are they just going to shoot? Because in the back of their mind, I'm really wondering if they're both thinking about it. Well, Timo just got here. For Jack, like, let me pass the puck to Timo. He's got some open ice. He's coming down, the circle. Let me give it to Timo. And, conversely, does Timo think that? Be like, I know I have the first shoot mentality, but I see Jack has some open ice. Do I pass him the puck or do I take that shot? To me, shoot the puck. Timo and Jack, shoot the puck. If you have a shot and you see that you have a good lane and there's traffic in front of the net, shoot the puck. Don't think that extra pass. I know there's going to be some flashy plays with this line. That is inevitable. That's going to happen. And we'll talk about how that led to some of the defensive breakdowns too. But shoot the puck. They're shooters. You definitely need to shoot the puck.
Yeah, I would assume and this is true of like in almost any sport. Like I'm thinking about in the NBA, when you bring in 2 new superstars, you get these guys together. Your desire is to like, I want to make sure hey, you're a great player. Get yours. No, you're a great player. So you end up having oversharing. And in this game against Arizona, what part of that and these guys trying to gel together led to some of the problems on the other end of the ice?
Overskating coming back defensively. It's Bryce Salvador actually said it on the post game, I think, or maybe during the intermission, is you don't want to be behind your own goal line when it comes back to skating back, right? So it's,
what you can't do is
they were chasing.
block a shot from behind the net.
Yeah, you can't. They were chasing the puck, which led to that one Yotes goal. It's going to happen. Is just understanding defensive responsibilities when it comes to their line, that the Jack, Timo, and Brat line. they were out of position a lot. It's defensively they did not play well, but I'm not too concerned about it because this is so fresh. This is so new. They have to learn where each other are going to be. Jack for the last 7-8 games has, and we talk about it too, for Jack to say Jack is struggling, that's like still a great NHL player. You know what I mean?
Sure.
So, what you see it with him, and I think that he's just in this little bit of not a real Jack Hughes moment in the season where he still has a lot more to give, obviously. And I think it's good for him to go through this right now as he gels with Timo and really gets used to this line, because you don't want this to happen during the playoffs, obviously, or more toward the playoffs. So I think it's just going to take some time to really gel with this line, with Timo especially.
Do you think, Timo, a little bit of obviously a bigger player? Do you think that, like, and this is a high level thing before we're going to talk about the matchup tonight, but also other players inside of that game coming out of Arizona. Do you think that if like the Devils really in a perfect world, they'd have even more physicality that promotes Jack Hughes to needing to be a pest defensively, but really all we want you to do is be solely focused on the offensive end. Because I think even right now, there's still requirements there. And you need to be a two-way player no matter what. But sometimes when I look at Jack, especially on the defensive end of the ice, you say, you're asking a lot. And I think that his size, the physicality there that you can get into, I think a lot. And you see him. There's nothing more I don't want to use the wrong word. I'm going to say adorable. Then when Jack Hughes is like, I'm going to go get physical on this guy on the defense, he tries to throw his body into players and be disruptive, but there's only so much you can do right now. And it doesn't mean you can't improve it, but just that balance right now.
Listen, we have to understand as Devils fans.
And don't side eye me when I say that Jack Hughes is adorable. I've seen his whatever yearbook photos for the Devils year by year. I think he's just now getting out of middle school in terms of physical.
No, he looks like a high school kid. He still looks like a high school kid. But listen, we know as Devils fans that this line is going to be so incredibly fast.
Yeah.
And it's a matter of the defensive pairing and obviously who's on Jack's line, which obviously right now is Timo and Bratt, keeping up with that pace too, right? You're going to have plays where there's going to be flashy moments, where there's going to be these spinoramas and these crazy plays that are going on. And we're more susceptible to those turnovers in the neutral zone or trying to get into the offensive zone. It's going to happen. And you kind of wash your hand with it and say, all right, you know what? It's what it is, because we have such a high power scoring line that we're going to give some of those chances away, which in turn makes it more important to not have the defensive breakdowns by our pairings as well.
Right. So last thing I just wanted to say about Jesper Bratt, just talking about something to keep in the back of your minds over the remainder of the season. So at this point of the year, he has 25 goals, 33 assists. He's on 58 points right now. So he's narrowly underneath averaging a point per game, in totality. That's going to get over one. I think that by the end of this season, you will see him 82 game season. I'm talking about a guy that could be 85, 88 points by the end of the year. I think that's purely a fringe benefit. And to your point of like, part of the give and take here is, yes, the defense is going to struggle sometimes, but we're a team that scores 4 goals, 5 goals, 6 goals a game. So I think the opportunities to be there. That is something to keep your eye on, my friends.
I like that.
Now,
so you essentially think that out of everybody, every player who is here with the Devils, acquiring Timo is going to benefit Jesper Bratt the most. If he stays on this line.
Yes. In the assumption that he's on this line, because again, make the hierarchy. You're an opposing team. When you look at the second line, I'm worried about Hughes. Now I'm worried about Timo.
Sure.
There's going to be stretches where you go, Jesper Bratt, that's right. You know what I mean? But when you look at the stats and you say, he's a 25 goal scorer over 62 games. Okay. He's a concern. But ultimately, it's just, this is the value of adding a player like Timo. It forces the other team to have to respect now. And by the way, it's almost like disrespectful to Bratt to say like, he'll be the forgotten guy. He's had a terrific season already.
Oh, of course, yeah.
So now you're talking about having, to me, like those top 2 lines for the Devils are going to be sensational and create real problems on a consistent basis, especially if we can get them caught when they, the shifting, changing those back lines, the defensive setups that they want to go against.
Isn't it crazy to think that we're talking about this, about, how many players on the Devils have over
how
20 goals?
Right, how threatening this team can be.
Yeah, we haven't even touched on Mercer yet. That's the crazy. We've been talking about the Timo, Jack, and Jesper line that we haven't even touched on Mercer yet, which is crazy. This team, and Nico, this team is stacked offensively. And I'm going to be honest, Adam, I think this is going to be like a 7 to 10 year run for this Devils team, that they're young. They have so many core guys that are so young that this is going to be a fun ride for a long time.
That's a part of the conversation that we'll get into, as this thing unwinds, and like the off season will be a great time to talk about that. It's like, what have they accomplished here?
Sure.
Right. What has this season meant? Acquiring Timo, all assuming that he gets brought back on the extension. Let's just foregone conclusion territory at this point.
And Brat being signed too.
Right. Yeah, by the way, right. And so there'll be some interesting conversations if we start to get bad rumors coming out of the off season about what happens next year for the Devils. We'll touch back into the overall stats around this team and on the offensive side. But in this game against the Coyotes, knowing that the Maple Leafs are coming up next year, defensively, you gave your ratings. I want to make sure that I'll go to my notes here, my other notes. I do notes, and then I also do notes. Inside of this, you had listed these line grades that you gave out coming out of this game. So offensive lines, understanding some of the struggles that they had defensively for Timo in his first game. You had a B+ for line 1, C- for line 2, with a bit of an asterisk, we can say.
Yeah.
But defensively, line 1, a C, line 2, a B. That's not terrible, but what about the first defensive unit did you find frustrating in this game? And by the way, introducing a new player, what you would love is our number 1 units go ahead and give you their best games together.
Right. I mean, Dougie, I think every Devils fan has seen it. Dougie Hamilton has struggled sometimes defensively. I don't have a clue what he's doing sometimes in the defensive zone, where he's just, I don't know how he's not in front of the net and he's literally on the sideboard. So it's, he just needs to clean up some of those really bad plays in the defensive zone, and just, it's all about puck possession, and not just throwing the puck across the ice or trying to dump the puck out of the ice when there's no open lane to do so. I mean, listen, it's going to happen. The defensive breakdowns are going to happen. It's inevitable, with the way this team is. But, the defensive pairing that really looked good to me and is still impressing me is, the maturation of Ball. Kevin Ball has played extremely well. He played well with Severson. I thought that was the best defensive pairing, believe it or not, against the Yotes. Which is surprising to say, because sometimes we're here saying, Severson, what the hell are you doing? And Ball, we're worried about him giving the puck up. He's played solid. Actually, believe it or not, I think he's the one defenseman who did not have a takeaway in that game. So it's really nice to see the third pairing coming up big. And I think he's really solidified himself in this lineup. And I think Brendan Smith is going to be the odd man out.
So I was just about to ask there too, as the follow-up, these defensive pairings, guys that are having success, Severson, different players that are struggling. Do you see any adjustments over the back end of this season to how those pairings go? You had mentioned about Sharon Govich being the odd man out initially. That came to bear. Do you see any playing here now based on what the Meier, Hughes, Brat line looks like, and what maybe you want to put behind them on the defensive lines?
You mean how they're going to rotate their defensemen?
Yeah. Will they look differently at that and say?
I think the defensive lines are going to be the same, and I think you're still going to roll the defensive lines just like you're going to roll the offensive lines. You can't really. There's no right answer to that yet. You know what I mean? There's really no right answer. I think that you want.
Right. If you see a unit struggling or a player struggling,
so
we make an adjustment.
If it's the third period and you see a defensive pairing that's playing well, you're going to give them more ice time. Obviously, when they're out with Timo, and they're out with Jack, and they're out with Brat, if they're giving the puck up a little bit, throughout that whole game. I think that the Devils coaching staff is phenomenal with that. I think they're putting the right matchups out when it comes to lines, especially against the opponents. Tonight is a massive test for this team. It's the Leafs are a serious contender for the cup as well. So, I'm really curious to see what we do and see how we clean our defensive play up, because if we played against Arizona the way we did,
if
that happens again, if we play the same way we played against the Yotes, played against the Leafs, we're going to lose this game. So especially goaltending wise too.
Yeah, and we'll talk about VTech here in a second as well. So you would say, to tie the bow on it, it's the pairings will stay the same defensively.
Yeah.
But when and where you use them, that's what they'll try to shuffle here based on what they're seeing from the lines ahead of them offensively, and those kind of, which is a standard thing. But it's more just the idea of, would they try to tweak something else in addition to having these new lines?
Right. I think that you're going to see the top 3 lines stay exactly the same offensively. So I think you're going to see, especially after the performance that Boquist, Hala, and Palat had, in that game. They were phenomenal. The best line, definitely rolling the whole game. I think when it comes to Lazar, I think if Wood or Bastian starts to play a little sluggish, has a couple off games, I think you'll see Lazar insert himself into the fourth line.
Yeah. That's a good reminder too, because that trade came subsequently. We know that Timo, it was the injury and getting acclimated, etc. But now Lazar is looming there. And you mentioned this at the time of the trade, that Lazar is there. He's kind of the backstop in case you feel like there's someone that struggles to a point
Right.
where you cannot run that risk. Maybe, we always talk about getting towards the playoffs. Hey, a run hot guy that can come in and find that rhythm. Maybe he ends up being a viable option in there.
Yeah, I just don't see it happening right away. And Lazar's not even available now, something with the visa from Canada. So he's not even available yet. But when he is available, like I said, it's only going to be determined on if someone is struggling, on the fourth line, I think.
Right.
I think you need to keep this third line together now. We were talking off air about, basically, Sharangovich or Boquist being replaced by Lazar. I think that instead of putting him into the third line, I think you have to keep that line together. And it's going to be all about the BMW line and, really their consistency moving forward. And listen, it's not going to be a bad thing to get Lazar on the lineup for Wood if we need to.
It's going to come a day, man. It's going to come a day. When you hear in the offseason that the Devils are committed to keeping Wood on this team, it's going to be a real hard.
Yeah, I don't think it's going to happen now that we have Lazar,
No, I know. It could look a lot different. But the last thing on that game, as we look forward to the Maple Leafs, we'll talk about where the line stands, the over-under, etc. But Vitek in goal, I will say, because of the defensive end of the ice is an area that consistently say, whoo, a little something there. Now, there's been games when Vitek has just looked bad, right? We mentioned the other day when Smid, we're having some debate around the pronunciation of his name when he's between the pipes. He comes in with those 12 saves and helps get them that win 2 games ago. But there are times when I think, boy, the confusion, the overskating, the issues that they've had defensively, there's stretches when it's hard to put that on the goaltender alone.
Of course.
You ended up, I think, grading out Vitek with a C in that game. What was it? What was he responsible for? Don't worry about the other issues in front of him. What were the things you thought he was responsible for that on both sides, successfully and unsuccessfully?
Rebound control was a little bit of a struggle. Just his positioning for certain goals was also a struggle. He would like at least 1, probably 2 goals back against the Yotes. He's playing okay right now. And the really important thing is what our longevity is in the playoffs is really going to depend on our goaltending and our defense. We're going to score goals. That's going to happen. It's really going to depend on our consistency of goaltending. And right now, I'm a bit concerned. I'm not too concerned because I think this happens in an 82-game season. It's just going to happen. But going back to what you were saying, against the Yotes, it was just some of his positioning just seemed off, and his rebound control was not great. So he's got to clean it up. Akira Schmid, he's been playing great. I'm wondering if he's going to play tonight. Yeah. It looked like the morning skate. I believe that the lines were exactly the same. We just saw a tweet before we came on air here. So, we're gonna see what happens moving forward. But I think that everybody just needs to take a step back, take a breath. Like we talked about last episode, these things are going to happen, but he needs to clean up those rebounds for sure.
Sidestep. You're standing in the middle of the ice. I have a puck at my stick. You're not wearing a helmet, and I'm an assassin with this thing, right? So puck to the dome. Do you think the Devils are going to need to be a 5-goal scoring, more likely to be a 5+ scoring team in the playoffs, or are they going to be able to depend on the defense, the goaltending when they need it, and win games? 4-3, even 4-3, right?
There's a lot of things that have changed in the NHL over the years. There's a lot of low-scoring games back in the day when the Devils won the cup. Cups, I should say.
It's not going to be that version.
You cannot rely on scoring 4 goals every game to win the Stanley Cup. You have to win 2-1 games in overtime, 3-2 games in overtime. There's going to be those games that you have to win, especially against the Bruins and against the Canes. Those are 2 teams that you cannot give up 3-4 goals a game and expect to win a 7-game series. So that is a concern. But that again is not just on the goaltending. It's we have had average goaltending with Vitek. That is on the defense too. That's cleaning up the defensive, lapses that the Devils have had, and it's just a matter of puck possession, defensive zone. It's like when you're watching the games, when we're watching the games, it's like we just look at each other like, what the hell's going on? Why would you make that pass across the center of the edge?
Clear the zone.
Yeah,
like
so
there's those violent moments where you're like, just get, and it's not. Sometimes when you get caught up when the other team is doing a good job forechecking, when they're putting pressure on you, usually we're frustrated when we're like, you have the space, you have the time.
Exactly.
And they seem to get, I think, because of how dangerous they can be offensively, there's a desire to say, But if we control this out of our zone,
Sure,
we got a real chance to set something up through the neutral zone, and we see how sometimes that unfolds.
Right, looking for that flashy play because you see like a Jack streaking down the ice and trying to.
If I can get him surging through the neutral zone, about to get into right. Hey, I know what it means when the puck is on his stick. And then we see the neutral zone turnover.
That actually happened too against the Yotes. I remember this actually. It was Dougie Hamilton who tried to make a flip pass out of the zone because Jack's line just came on, and Dougie was on the ice for probably a minute by then already, and you could see he was lagging a little bit. So those things are just being aware of line changes, and the time they're on the ice. It's you have to be more aware when it comes to that defensively.
Let's talk about then the game tonight. The Maple Leafs, Devils back home, so it'll be home debut for Timo. You're going to this game. You're going to be down in the box, right? You're going to be right behind.
Yeah, we're club seats. I think we're row 4. So we're got the nice club access tonight. You know what you can do. Thank you, Kristen, my Devils rep. I appreciate you.
You'll be wearing something like this, probably.
Yeah, I'm wearing this exact thing.
Yeah,
I gotta go train. I gotta go to my dog training after this, and then we're gonna head to the game.
How do you know that that we're doing this live? He will be wearing the same outfit.
Yes.
How can he confuse you? He usually only wears this outfit. But if you see him there, man, give him a shout out.
That's not true. I wear my Jack Hughes jersey and I'll wear my tuna jersey.
Sorry, I meant jersey, black pants, backwards hat. He'll actually have the microphone in hand walking around the arena, which will be fun.
Yeah, come say hi.
It'll be a good one. Devils are -133 on this one. Over under set at 6.5. Since we started this podcast, the lowest the over under's ever been is 6.
Mm-hmm.
And I expect a goal. I expect goals more often than not in this game. How do you feel this one? Because I mean, Maple Leafs made moves at the deadline as well. They're a difficult matchup.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not saying I don't have confidence, but I'm like, oh, if you told me this was a bit of a puck flip in this game, that would feel fine to me. The Devils are favored though, and it is home ice.
It's home ice. I mean, this one comes down to, again, having the fast start against the Leafs. This one's going to come down to our defensive breakdowns, if we have them, and if we don't. If we play, like I said, against the Leafs, like we played against the Yotes, we will lose this game, and we're not going to lose like 2-1. We're going to lose like 5-1 if we have a game like we did against the Yotes. So, this is about, just being consistent with the puck possession, breaking out of the zone, neutral zone, make sure you're not turning the puck over, grinding it out on the boards. This game, I'm really looking forward to seeing the BMW line control the pace of play when they're out on the ice and really dominate the boards to get those goals from our defensemen, from the Dougies, from, passing about to the Marinos to get shots with traffic in front of the net. So I think this is going to be a very tough game. I'm actually going the under, Adam. I think that this game is going to be a 3-2 or a 4-2 type of game. And I think you could see another overtime game.
Well, by the way, because this also ties in the theme we're discussing, coming into it, I was, doing the notes. The Devils got the overtime win. I was mismanaging the shootout losses that they're on that sweet 18 streak it is now.
Shootouts,
yeah. So, which by the way, though, ties into the idea of, there's one area where it doesn't matter what your defense is doing. Shootouts. That's where the goaltender, it's only him trying to have success in those instances. And right now, the collective unit of goaltenders has struggled in that area. So, listen, if it takes overtime, it takes overtime. But you see this so do you think that the defense is tightening up in this game tonight?
Yeah, I think that Lindy's going to really focus on the defense tightening up. I think that's going to be one of the priorities coming into this game, is because coming down the stretch, that's the most important aspect, goaltending and defense, because our offense is going to be there. Even if the great thing about Jack not scoring as much and not having as many points as he had is that we're spreading the puck around now. And these top 3 lines are scoring. And even our 4th line has been scoring. So I am not concerned about the offense. We're going to get our chances. It's really about the defense tonight. Let's be more defensive minded. Let's realize who our opponent is. And let's get this win. I think we can get this win.
Last thing I wanted to just mention here, because out of the last game and last couple of games, McLeod has been playing really well for the Devils, and he's been critical, especially on faceoffs. I'm pulling up in the background here because I wanted to. I remember at the time of the Timo trade, I was thinking about it. McLeod leads the team right now in faceoff win percentages. What do you think the percentages? Do you know?
McLeod is probably what, 58%?
60%. Yeah, because he won a ton of the games. The other night you were saying I think it was against Arizona. You were like, he's the only one that's winning them, but he had won something like, gosh, I don't want to say this wrong. He was like 70% on it or plus on his faceoff wins in that game.
Listen, he goes out in overtime and he just takes the faceoffs and then jumps off the ice, and he was 5 for 5, I think, in that overtime game too. That might have been against Vegas, not against the Yotes.
Right. Because it was a game. Yeah.
So, the thing is that is such an important aspect to what the Devils can do. You know, if you're losing faceoffs, obviously you're not getting the puck possession, and you're not breaking out of the zone, especially if it's a defensive zone faceoff. But McLeod he's been playing great, and Haula has finally come into his own because he's on the line he should be on. He should be a third line center.
Yeah.
He is not a second line player. And, you know, he's coming into his own with Palat. And, you know, Boquist let's not forget Boquist. You know, he's been.
Yes, sorry. I mean,
Yeah,
there's a lot of guys we kind of want to give the tip of the cap to, and something that we'll try to do a better job of. Episode to episode is just the Jack Hughes conversations, the Timo Meier highlights. It's always going to be there. But everything else that's happening around them matters just as much.
With Lazar coming over, I think that Boquist knows that there's a fire under his butt. So the pressure is on him, and he has been delivering, especially last game with the 2 goals.
And the reason why I brought up McLeod, and especially the faceoffs, just as a fun reminder as we close out here, we'll give our predictions on this game, is that Zetterlund went out in the trade.
Mm-hmm.
He was the third best on, fourth best on face-off win percentage.
What was his percentage?
He was coming in at 40.
Okay.
And ahead of him was going up the board, Mercer, Heischer, and Haula, who 41, 53, 56. So just in terms of, hey, when you have McLeod there, like, you're shuffling this board. There is this one little footnote.
Mm-hmm.
The team was already there like this. Nothing changed. Timo Meier doesn't have to and does not win faceoffs when he's asked to. Right. They don't have, in terms of faceoff win percentages, I'm a stat guy, by the way. You'll see this. You get down into the 30s when you talk about other players, most notably Jack Hughes, a 35% guy. So they need to have, like, McLeod and popping in there is critical, and Hughes needs to get serve his role there as well.
And you're a stat guy, and also Lindy and his coaching staff sees that too. So obviously that's why McLeod is out there for the faceoffs. Right. But it's true. It's right there. You know, it's literally right there. And Jack will improve on faceoffs. It's part of his game. He'll improve on. Most importantly, we are great down the center when it comes to you know, Nico, Eric Haula, and McLeod on those lines. So I'm not too concerned about the Jack line right now when it comes to faceoffs.
Okay, they play tonight. You said you're going to take the under in this game. It's set at 6.5. So you're talking about it being a 4-2 game?
3-2 Devils. Jack Hughes in overtime.
In overtime?
Yes. Jack Hughes is ready to score in overtime. I feel it coming.
I'm going to go. This is a tough one. Who's in goal, do we say?
You know what's funny, though, too? Are we ever going to be on here and predict the Devils to lose? Are we?
No.
We have to ask ourselves that now, because
that's important.
That's a very important
podcast theme. Devils puck luck. Will we ever predict the Devils to lose a game?
Listen, this is a game to me that is 50-50. It's a coin flip. You know, I think that this is going to be a tough game for the Devils, the opponent. So coming back from Arizona, you know, only a couple days off. Let's see what happens. We got to come out strong. We got to come out fast. But I still do think that the Devils will win in overtime. But we have to be realistic with each other.
And you made the point about the way, if they perform the way they did last game, especially early, like, there was sloppiness in that game. It was, you're getting lucky on just the sense of like, well, they're not playing so well, so we can all kind of knock this thing around for a while. You can't afford to do that against the Maple Leafs. It'll be different. Now, we've also talked about already early in this podcast, since we started it, about how, well, the Devils can always come back.
Right.
Yes, until you can't. Right, until you don't. So, like,
this is Toronto. You know, this isn't like a Coyotes team, or this isn't a Columbus Blue Jacket team.
Right.
This is Toronto.
Down two goals in the first period. That's okay. By the end of the second, it'll be 3-3, or we'll be up, 3-2, whatever it is. And then we'll try to be dominant going into the third period. Yes, that's always viable. But when you don't see that success, that's when I think these defensive things we're talking about, that'll become more glaring. So
put it like this, right? Against Colorado, we were up 5-1. We gave up 3 goals in 5 minutes.
Right.
You know, that's from defensive breakdowns. And that can easily happen again tonight. And you can't always rely on having 5 goals in the second period against these top 10 NHL teams. So point being, if those defensive breakdowns continue to happen and the lackluster goaltending happens, it's going to be lights out, and we will not win this game.
All right, so I'm going to follow your lead on this. I'm going to take the under, but I'm going to keep it in regulation, and I'm going to call it a 4-2 Devils win, because I'm going to hang the hat on, get an early goal, and then do the right thing.
Right.
Lock in defensively, be willing to sacrifice some of those really great opportunities when you see Jack Hughes. Don't do the thing, Dougie. Don't try to flip that thing saucering through the neutral zone. Don't worry about those long-range passes. Trust, by the way, that if you are consistent on the defensive end once you have a lead, what does that often end up leading to? It ends up leading to penalties being taken by the opposition.
Exactly.
Because they're pressing, they're trying to, a hook in your defensive zone when they want to try to make sure they get back one of those goals, especially late in periods. Let that be the way that you end up producing easy chances. And then something we didn't talk about today, really locking in on the power play and, capitalizing on those opportunities. And you should be able to with the lineups you have now. We understand that, but you have to take advantage of those too, because that makes a big difference. When you let a team survive 2 minutes and you don't put it from a 2-1 to a 3-1, from 2-0 to 3-0,
sure,
then you're only one bad puck away.
Last game, power play unit 1 struggled. And again, that's the growing pains with Timo coming in. Power play 2 got the goal. Severson got the goal, so it's a good thing that we have 2 power play units that are great units. But power play 1 did look anemic, but they'll be fine. I'm not really concerned about it.
So to answer everyone's question, no, we probably will never pick against the Devils, which means they should be 82-0 by the end of this. So that's odd. Yeah. They don't seem to be following our. It's smart thinking. I always say when you take the ice,
I wish we did this during the 13-game win streak, because then we'd be right on every single prediction.
We would have had a really nice run. We could have had a great run. Bottom line is they'll take the ice tonight. We'll be looking forward to watching that. Danny will be there at the game, obviously. You get over to Twitter. You can follow us at NJDevilsPL. That'll be the official show handle, at Danny the Face, at Adam Armbrecht. Over on YouTube, Devils Puck Luck. Go ahead and subscribe. Turn on your alerts so you know when we're going live with episodes like this on your podcast feeds as well, man. We're having a lot of fun doing it. We've got games coming up that we're going to be going to together as well. So it should be a good time.
We need our second keyword for the free ticket giveaway.
Oh, that's right. I'm
going to do this one, okay? This one's going to be Palat. That is the second word. So we got Schmid and we got Palat.
Well, see now, and that's why, by the way, a little bit of a freebie there, because we shouldn't be telling you what the first word was. Ooh. You should be going and watching those episodes. So
that's the last time we'll do that.
Thanks, Palat, to Danny for not
player to watch
protocol.
Tonight, Adam. Player to watch tonight. Who you got?
Player to watch tonight. I'm going to go with the guy that I was talking about so much. I'm going to go with Bratt. I think this is a nice maybe goal and assist kind of game, maybe 2 assist kind of game for him. I like him on this line.
John Marino for me tonight. Watch John Marino. I think he's going to be the catalyst for this defensive core, and I think he's going to throw the puck at the net, and it's going to have a nice deflection, and I can see someone like Palat scoring.
There we go. Ladies and gentlemen, enjoy the game tonight. We'll be back on Thursday talking about this one, looking ahead, looking behind, looking forward, looking around the New Jersey Devils. And just like the man on the ice, you know that for the New Jersey Devils, it's all going to be gravy. That was a good show, Dan. That was a good show. Anything else you want to say?